welcome back to our 6th session of Join Digital. My name is Jen, I'm on the marketing team here at Blueven, and for this session I'm joined by Sara, Director of Digital at Frederick News Post. Very lucky to have her here today. She's going to be discussing how they've transformed their customer journey experience very, very shortly. So like all of the other sessions, do ask questions, take advantage of this situation and ask Sara all the questions that you want to, and we'll get to them at the end, and any that we don't cover will be answered offline. And also just a reminder that I am recording the session, so if for anyone who ends up turning up late or you have to log off a bit earlier than you want to, you will be able to catch up early next week. Okay. So we've got about 30 minutes or so. So if you're ready, Sara, we'll jump straight in.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so just to give a little heads up, so the Frederick News Post is a small paper in Frederick, Maryland in the United States. What I'm going to talk about a little bit is just kind of really how we got through the realization of coming to the idea of a single customer view and kind of how we used it. Let's see. So just to start, I came to the News Post in 2011. And when I got there, I kind of felt like the idea of kind of how we were talking to people, kind of what we were doing, we were very fragmented. There was really no shared vision across the organization. Every department had its own system for managing customers, for managing advertisers, very different things. We had a homegrown CMS system that nobody basically knew how to use. We weren't doing any email marketing, and in fact, we really weren't even looking at email. And that was in 2011. We had no way for customers to really talk to us or communicate with us other than basically reaching out by phone. And as no surprise, you know, we were as a media company, we were also in the midst of seeing declining subscriber numbers and really losing market share. So you can kind of see, you know, within those 2 years, between January of 2011 and the end of 2013, we saw a drastic drop in our subscriber base. So we all knew and were aware that we really needed to do something kind of big to really rethink the way that we were managing the relationship with both prospects as well as our current subscribers. And so the tack we took is certainly, I don't think anything that's revelatory or, you know, we didn't invent the term, but we really kind of latched onto this idea of moving to this concept of a membership model and using that as a platform for really kind of thinking about how we were going to bring everybody together in a user-centric approach to really reinvent the way that we thought about the relationship that we have with our customers, and how we were going to communicate with them. And I really, it's an interesting one, right? Membership was really, it was a mind shift, and again, it's a construct, right? But it was really a mind shift for both staff and for our subscribers alike. We didn't really want this to just be a marketing spin. We didn't really want this to just be putting a paywall up on our website and kind of saying, hey, we've got this new product. We really wanted to take a stance of mattering more to our community and to our readers. And certainly we didn't want to hide from the fact that this is actually what we were trying to do, that we wanted to be very open and apparent that, and reach out to the community and express to them that we wanted to have a more open, transparent, and communicative relationship with them. And so, you know, again, as I walk through this, I'm really kind of looking more at the undertaking from a digital angle and how we kind of brought all the pieces together that we have, and how we kind of use technology in our MarTech to kind of meet those business needs. But the reality is really this did affect every department. This was an effort that was really across the entire organization. Everybody was asked to provide new products to the mix, and we did a bunch of different things to kind of develop what membership was. One of the beauties of being you're a media company, right, is that you have a direct line. As a print newspaper, we have a very direct line to our current subscribers, which is one that we use. This is actually just a screenshot of on the day that we launched our membership model at the end of the process that we're going to talk about. We actually took over the whole entire front page of the newspaper to explain what it is we were doing and why we were communicating in this way. So just to give you an idea of some of the things that we kind of included in this membership model was really the idea of combining both our print and our digital offerings and kind of thinking of them as a single product mix, right? So all of our current print subscribers were given full access to the website. For non-members, they were allowed a certain number of views, again, very standard paywall kind of behavior. They were given a certain number of free views a month, and after that they could register for an account, which meant they could give us our email address. So we started to think about some of the steps to collect information from them, and after so many, they had to be an actual subscriber. We had different pieces that were membership only. For like example, we have an e-replica edition, which we made specifically, you can only access that as a member. We gave them more accounts. So for each single subscription record, you can have 5 household accounts. We also launched about 7 to 8 email marketing or email newsletters in conjunction with this. So again, we took a look at the content that we were providing and different ways of providing that to people. Which all sounds very lovely, and it's a great idea. And our primary goal was to promote basically, you know, a digital solution in the face of the membership that didn't look kludgy. The reality of what we had and what we were looking at from a technology standpoint was about 6 different systems with little or no history of interacting or with each other that we needed information to and we needed to connect, right? So this is really the concept of like how we got to the idea of a single customer view and the reality of the data that we were looking at. So I said there were about 6 systems, right? So we had all of our marketing profile and demographic information in our, again, we use Leap, which is a BlueVenn company. So we had that in our Leap database. We were using a circulation system, which was great for delivering papers, but it's a system that's built actually on addresses and not really names of people, right? So the kind of, it thinks of people as addresses and not really as people. It doesn't really track any kind of interactions with them. It really just solely provides a mechanism for delivery. We also had a web platform that was a web CMS that we kind of had moved to in the interim from when I started, which we collected a lot of information from people who were registered people, you know, registered users that we knew, but we had very simple information about them. We had maybe an email address. We may or may not have more than that, and there was really no tie between who those people were and who we had in our subscription or our circulation database. And then we had a email marketing platform, which was a kind of a, if we had an email or we were doing a contest, we might have communicated in that manner. But again, none of those emails were checked against either our subscription database or our web database. So, you know, we had lots of information about people. We had lots of things that we knew about you, but in very different systems, and none of which actually spoke to each other. So we, you know, for example, I think we had about 25,000 or so subscribers at the time. We had email addresses for some of them, but we had thousands and thousands of email addresses that in our web database, and we actually only had, I think there were over, when we originally looked at it, we only had 800 email addresses that were consistent between both systems. So we knew we didn't know who anybody who was or what it is that they were actually doing with us. So kind of our approach to it, and then, you know, was to really kind of look at understand our business needs and conceive that flow regardless of the technology first. And kind of like to think of that as really, we were creating our customer journey maps, but more at a conceptual level, really thinking through not really how those systems interacted or needed to interact, but just thinking about how we wanted users to interact and how we wanted them to communicate with us and how we wanted to present them with options and information. And this little chart that I'm showing, and again, it's just an example, but it's a simple flow chart. It's really nothing, there's no real technology to this. It was just sitting down and really kind of mapping out that customer journey, not from a specific, if you sign up for an email address, we send this email, but really from a kind of an idea of how we wanted people to flow through the system. And this was actually a really useful tool for us because what it allowed us to do was really identify different areas of pain points, if you will, and areas where we saw problems with the integration or where things might provide issues, right? So, for example, we know we wanted to have a single sign-on. Again, just as a single communication point, we wanted to kind of ease customers through that process. Again, we know that a lot of our print subscribers who weren't necessarily accessing the website were a little bit older and may have some problems with that. So we wanted to kind of ease them through this process. We knew that we needed to combine all the data on the back end, right? We understood the kind of pain points of where that integration would be as well. But one of the other things that was really key in this diagram actually showing us was how painful the integration would be on the front end for users. So, for example, for each of these 6 different systems where we were collecting data in different ways on the back end, even if we normalize that data, the collection points for that data or the interfaces that people would use to get to them were all different, required different sign-ons. And we could see that as we were going through that it was going to be very complicated for us to pull all of that together. So these are kind of, that's the process of what we were looking on. I just wanted to give you an idea of the timeline. So, it seems a little excessive, but we're a small team, but we really spent probably about a year from start to finish from planning to launch. And there were different steps to that, right? So again, looking at trying to get, at the very least, the data normalized and kind of understood and understand what the integration points between those would happen in order to provide us an opportunity to have a single customer view. So we started with upgrades to the website. Then we moved into integrating our marketing database with our circulation database, right? We moved into creating basically custom interfaces to basically allow us the ability to better streamline that process from a user-centric standpoint, and plan the newsletters and how we were going to roll those out. So again, this is just an idea of the time frame, but it took us about a year to go from kind of disaster everywhere, 6 different systems, and kind of streamlining that data step by step, and then providing a mechanism for users to access it and for us to access them in a more streamlined manner. So, what does that look like? Well, again, I wanted to kind of talk to this idea of activation. Again, I don't think that this is anything that's brand new as a concept, but we kind of really kind of honed in on it because we liked the concept of activation and that it provided us a really a way to allow to be user-centric, to be proactive and affirmative, and allow our customers a way to interact with us and basically help us make these connection points and normalize our data. So, for example, we knew, so Town News is our web CMS, CircPro is our circulation system, right? In order for those two to talk, we know that they needed to match on basically the data points that they needed to match on were an email address and what was considered a name ID. Now, a name ID is not known to anybody unless they actually use the back-end database of CircPro. And even those users don't necessarily know what it is. It's not very well named. It's not very well surfaced. But that's what Town News needed in order to basically tie an online user to an actual subscription in our database and provide them access to the website. And so on top of that, we also knew that we have users who may have a Town News account, but don't actually have an email account within CircPro, within our circulation system. And again, we knew that we even for numbers that we did, you know, out of 25,000 active subscribers at that point, we only had 800 that we could even match to an email address in Town News. And so the idea was that, how do we get them to actually make the connection point? How can we help users in a very easy way and a friendly way make this connection between our web database and our circulation database, so that we can connect all of those points with an email that we can then actually put into our email marketing and put into a customer journey through the BlueVenn platform. And again, I think this is it's a nice solution, because basically what we did, we said, all right, really what people need to know is they need to know their name ID. They need to know their name ID, because if they enter their name ID into an interface that we create, and we can match that against something in the database, then we know who they are, and we can have them add an email address, and through APIs, we can actually write that back. So, you know, again, this isn't a high-tech solution. We send out we basically send out letters to every subscriber. Weeks before, we've been talking about membership with our subscribership, right? We have been talking to them, you know, planning this out from a marketing perspective. So we sent out letters announcing membership, and hey, they had this great new ability to become active with their membership. And because they were already a print subscriber, they had access to the online edition, and all they needed to do was activate their membership. And we gave them an activation code. So for every subscriber we had, we sent them an activation code. And what that activation code really was their name ID. So you know, it meant something to us, and that was great. They had no idea. They're like, oh, I got this activation code. This is what I need to use. And it provided us a nice little easy way to allow us to combine data and join data and make sure that we understood who it is that we were talking to, and have them be a part of that and basically do the hard lifting for us. Right. So this is just a screenshot of some, basically we wrote a custom interface to kind of walk them through this process. So we said, okay, great, members, you can activate your account. We kind of first started with this idea of, you know, first give us your email. And really in the back end, what we were doing is looking up into our web CMS to see if that email account already existed. If it didn't find any email, it said, okay, let's go ahead and create one for you, create an account for you. And what that did is that actually, when we create that screen name and password, that actually writes back to our web database. And if we have an actual subscription record that we can match on, it'll write it back to the subscriber record, so then we have the connection points. And if it did find an email address that was already existing in Town News in our web CMS, we wanted them to use that because it's what they already had an account for. So basically we said, okay, great, you've already got them. We didn't really necessarily want them creating new accounts. We wanted them using the ones that they already had. So now we said, okay, great, we found your account. Go ahead, we want to link you now with your actual subscription record. And again, we just did that in some basic information. They could either do this or they could use their activation number. And once we did that, we actually were able to pass them through and make the connection points all in the background without them knowing it. And so again, you know, that customer single view from a marketing perspective is really important, but it also helped us, thinking about it in that manner, actually helped us also create a portal where, again, it doesn't look like anything super fantastic, but for us it was revolutionary, because really we're providing an idea of membership. We're providing an idea of what we know about you and the things that you're doing with us in a single view. And really this screen that I'm showing you, which is actually the member portal, it's, you know, in the background we've got multiple systems calling to it and writing back to different ones. So we have all of our email newsletters, which are being basically written into our email, our DSP. And then we have, our subscriber information where you can actually do things like make a vacation stop, which is like huge for us. I mean, people being able to say, oh, I'm going on vacation, stop my subscription from here or there. And we actually tie all that information together in the back end, but it just allowed them one area to kind of access everything all at once without having to go to multiple different places. So, it was kind of a huge success. We streamlined really as part of that. We kind of went forward and streamlined pretty much every process we had for kind of how we got subscribers in the door. So again, for example, I'm just showing a screenshot of we streamlined the subscription options that we offered them, trying to make it into the outcome that we wanted to have versus then what we had traditionally done, which is any outcome we can conceive of. For example, we used to take subscriptions, you could do 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. You could do you could do 7 day, you could do 4 day, you could do digital only, you could do 3 day, you could do Saturday only. And what we basically discussed is too many options was too many. Again, scaling that back to a number of things that we kind of focus in on was a much better prospect. So we narrowed it down to basically 3 options that we were to offer online, and that was it. And we've actually had great success with that. Again, if people want something different, or if they really want to pay at a year rate, because these are actually what we call easy pay, so they automatically update every month. It's a monthly subscription that kind of automatically renews. If they really want to pay at a year, they can. They just have to call us. Again, this is just an idea of streamlining. We made the newsletters a little bit fun. We talked about the different things that you can do. Part of what we're doing with our customer data platform and with the BlueVenn technology is streamlining, really pushing newsletter signups as a way for us to stay involved with you. And again, with those interactions, we know whether you signed up for, if you've already signed up for one, the next time you come, we're going to offer you a different one, right? We're going to offer you a different option. So just trying to use the technology to kind of keep people more engaged with us and reinforcing those messages of community and membership. So again, just to kind of roll through, for us, it was a long process, but it was really important to streamline all of that data first and kind of get a feel for what it was we were doing as an organization as a whole, not just as a marketing arm, not just as a circulation or audience development arm, but kind of really thinking of it from the entire organization and what we wanted to accomplish. We really wanted this system to be self-service, right? We wanted people to engage with us and opt into that engagement, not just sign up for a newsletter, but really engage with us online in a variety of different ways. And that kind of looking at that customer engagement and that user-centric approach, really trying to put them forefront and kind of imagining how it is that they'd like to interact with us and trying to make sure that we give them as many opportunities as we can to do that, but in a manner that's easy for them to do and is really self-service oriented. Now, again, some of that's a little selfish because it helps us because we're not a big team, and that gives us a lot of opportunity, it saves us a lot of opportunity to do other things. But this is, for us, we were able to really become a lot more efficient and effective at our communication avenues and understanding how and when we were talking to people. And so, we now have, I think we're actually even, I think when this was written, we were over 70,000 active email addresses, but we have quite a bit more. We only have, right now our subscribership's at about 22,000. So we have an opportunity to still talk to our community. Those emails are really important because there are people who are still engaged with us and represent prospects that we can kind of mine and use our customer data, our customer journeys to kind of really hone in on how we're working those systems. And again, being able to use Leap and BlueVenn has really allowed us to take advantage of marketing automation. Now that we have that data kind of all streamlined, it makes it much easier for us to implement things and do a lot of the practices that again, not rocket science. It's not anything that anybody else hasn't been doing, but for a smaller organization and one where we don't have a lot of resources, it's allowed us a lot of opportunity to kind of do new and exciting things. And a key data point for us is, how many subscribers do we have? And so at the end of this, within probably, I would say, you kind of saw at the beginning of the slides where there was this kind of huge drop in our subscribership. In 2006, we had leveled it off, and we only had a decline of 13 members total for the year, which for us, especially in the media industry, was a big win. So that's really what I had. My last slide was just more of a, throughout this process and keeping it user-centric, there were a lot of things where, I used to talk to myself a lot about how Rome wasn't built in a day, and, we need to think differently, and we have a lot of good ideas that we wanted to do, but we had to take our time, and we really took the time to think through it, and it's really helped us out quite a bit. Sometimes we just didn't have the resources, but for us, Leap and BlueVen were really instrumental in allowing us to jump into the fray in a way that had a meaningful impact. And they've always been sort of supportive of our more crazier ideas as we've gone along the process. And just to give you an idea of, kind of what effect this had on us, when we launched membership in September 2014, we basically starting with 0 connection points between basically our web database and our subscriber database. And within days, we had 8,000. And now, again, it slowed off, right? But we now have about 65% of our subscribers have activated their digital membership and have made a connection. And so that, again, it's a great opportunity for us to understand, and we can use that data in ways to inform, not just marketing and prospects, but also kind of what content we provide them on a daily basis. Those different types of data points. So it's been a lot of fun and very effective for us. And that's all I had.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. It's really interesting hearing your story. I think the audience will really benefit from hearing it. I think you never really hear what goes on behind the scenes with projects like this, and I think it's so important to share your experiences because like most projects, there are highs and there are lows, and I'm sure there were lots of things that you weren't expecting to experience, but you've been through them, and like look what you've achieved from going through the process. So yeah, really good stuff. We have had some questions through. Keep sending your questions to us. If we don't answer them now, they will still be answered offline. So make sure you do still send your questions through. So Sarah, how long did the process take before you started seeing results?
So we started the process probably in December, but of 2012. It took us it took us about 6 months to kind of just get our feet wet for doing a lot of the data projects and planning our marketing launch. So we launched. So there were probably about 8 months from when we started to when we launched. But to be honest, we saw dividends over fairly quickly. So as I mentioned, we saw an increase of connection points and new emails in the database. We basically went from we got about 8,000 new email addresses within our search system and within our email marketing within the first day or two, just for current subscribers who actually let us know who they were, where we didn't have any kind of communication with them prior to that. On top of that, we saw an increase of just people signing up to stay informed. So even if they weren't subscribers, we saw a ton more engagement in terms of giving us their email addresses and just staying informed or signing up for newsletters. And some of those newsletters were member-only newsletters. Some of them weren't. So we kind of made it a mix so that we could still engage non-members. So for us, I mean, within a month, we saw a rise in digital subscribership. I think, I don't remember exactly how many, but it was probably probably at least a 20% increase in our digital subscribership, as well as, well, I shouldn't say digital, but really our subscribership. And we saw a huge increase in the number of emails and ability to market to people.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really, really good stuff. Okay, so the next one that came through was, which I'm sure a lot of companies who are going through this process at the moment will be facing. Did you have any internal struggles with who actually owned the project? And also, did you have company buy-in from the start? Because I know this isn't just a marketing-led project. You've got to have everyone's buy-in, don't you?
Yes, we were very lucky in that our publisher was a big believer in it, and it stemmed from the top down. But as a team, we really led it as it was a team effort. So probably it was mostly myself and the audience development and publisher who were kind of spearheading it. But we spent a lot of time actually talking to every department and explaining why this was important and explaining how this would help them do better at their jobs and how it would help us as a company, and how. So we really tried. I mean, it sounds a little bit, corny, but we really bought into this idea of mattering more to our community, and that really became the battle cry. And everybody kind of galvanized around, like, we are here to matter more for our community. And that was a way for, rather than it just be a technology or a marketing project, it was a way for people to kind of really find a connection point with it, and really basically everybody get buy-in.
And lastly, did you have any surprises, whether that's good or bad, during the planning process and implementation stages that you hadn't seen coming?
Oh, sure. I mean, that's like data. That's working on back end every day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are always surprises. I think it's again, you have to, when you do the hard work of understanding it at a conceptual level and being flexible and kind of how you approach different things, it's easier to get around those speed bumps. So the speed bumps that we had were, okay, well, again, well, this system talks to this system only in this way. Well, nobody knows what that way is. What do we do about that? Okay, well, we're just going to tell people what they need. I mean, like those types of things. I mean, I think for us, there are always speed bumps, there are always issues. But I think because we understood what we wanted the outcome to be, and we understood the process that we wanted people to go through, figuring out ways around the speed bumps became much easier, because we knew at the core of it, it wasn't the technology driving the project, it was the business needs driving the project. So we knew what we wanted the outcome to be. How we got there, we determined that we could be fairly flexible with. So if we couldn't do it with this piece of tech, that's fine. We'll do it with this piece of tech, as long as we got the outcome that we wanted. And I think keeping that first and foremost in our minds allowed us an opportunity to make it happen without too many speed bumps.
Yeah, and you really did. I mean, look at the journey you've been on. It's incredible. You must be very proud of the team and everything you've achieved. I just had a look at the time. I've run over slightly, but that's okay. But I am going to finish the session here. Sara, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really great to hear your story. And yeah, I'm sure the audience have found it beneficial. Yeah, it's really great to hear all of your experiences, the good and the bad, and where you guys are at today. Okay, so if you want to find out any more about how BlueVen have worked in the news media industry, then we do actually have some other great case studies on the site. So if you go to www.blueven.com, I know we've got a couple of case studies on there too. I do believe we have one on the Washington Post, which might be of interest to some of our listeners now. So for our next session at Join Digital, we're going to be hearing from Fresh Relevance, and they're going to be talking about driving purchases with browse abandonment. So I highly recommend sticking around for that. If you just wait 10 minutes to the session, then you'll get your reminder email, and your registration link will be included in that, and you'll be able to log into the session via that. Okay, well, we'll see you very shortly. Goodbye, and see you soon.